Some kind of force hallucination. Fueled by fear. I use his against him.
Not so scary now. Still in one piece. BD? Some good news.
Maybe Dagon was right.
You sure you're not still, you know?
Think about it. Tanalor's a fortress. We should use it for the hidden path. Gather allies, train. They'd never see us coming.
I don't know, that seems risky.
Everything is at risk so long as the Empire's around. Besides, you don't want Kata spending her whole life in hiding, do you?
If she's safe, Cal? Yeah. Yeah, I'll take that.
Yeah. Yeah, okay, I understand that. But someday, someone's gonna have to face the Empire. Why not us? I bet Cordova can fix this up. Let's head back to Jeddah.
Sure. I'm gonna take a look around first, see if I can find a manual for that thing or something.
We'll figure it out.
Yeah.
saved my neck. Again. Thanks.
This is finally part 2. Fuck. Fuck it. This is finally part 2 of what I was talking about. I have many particular issues with Bode as a character. Practically everyone that talks about Bode and in like an analysis, critiquing kind of matter, it's always the same thing for the most. Well, not always. That's an absolute. I should stop saying that. But here's my problem. You can make the argument all you want that he's just looking at it from the father's perspective. You can do that all you want. But here's the problem that I think a lot of people do not understand. Or rather, they do understand, they just don't want to acknowledge it. You know, based on the videos I've seen, everything like that, and comment sections. Is it really worth it? Using fatherhood as an excuse and shit like that. Who, like, at some point you need to ask yourself, is it really worth it? Is it worth it? You know what, hold on. Is it worth it? Like, genuinely. Yes, the dark side makes you very irrational and things like that. I fucking know. I've been, like, Star Wars for a very long fucking time. I know. I'm very much aware. I know. But let's not go fucking crazy. Let's not act like the dark side is truly the main focal point. The dark side may be known for doing that, but let's not use that as an excuse. What if, now bear with me here, what if Bode genuinely, I'm just spitballing here, didn't actually care about Kata? What if, due to the fact that people are comparing him to, like, examples in real life, that's the reason why they're trying to sympathize with him and shit like that? What if you take that all away, and it's just as the game showcases it? He uses fatherhood as an excuse. If he truly cared about Kata that much, like even Jedi out there who are like fall into the dark side, as well as other Force users, when it comes to something they care about, they still do a better job at caring. The only time Anakin, both in the Clone Wars, like both the original anime Clone Wars and the 3D version and the movies, ever was truly nasty and abusive to Padme was in Revenge of the Sith. Not saying he was a healthy person, absolutely not. But let's be real here. Even he wasn't as much of a liability as Bode was. And that's my main issue. People are comparing him to Anakin. I'm just like, this is what I'm talking about. This is shallow empathy. This is very shallow. It is very, 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 very shallow. Because you cannot make that comparison. You're not going to tell me someone who's born on a fucking slave planet, had multiple slave masters, was taken away from his mother, who's still on that slave planet, mind you, 2 sons, desert planet, a slave. And when he asked to see his mother, shit like that, they forbid him from doing so. And the only time he got to see his mother again is when she's already beaten brutally to the point that she's on her last legs. Hell, if she can even move her legs. And she dies holding on to the hope that she'll see her son again. She dies right there. You combine that along with the fact that Palpatine's grooming him, the Jedi were majorly flawed in their approach to many, many different fucking things. Because they were really, really out of touch with the Force, the people, everything. And, well, not to mention war, but war has a massive effect on people anyway. And that plays a part. See, Bode has not really fought in a war. He's more like a super agent, if anything. He's not really a fighter, so... So knowing that, you're trying to pull the whole, oh, well, Anakin would be like that if he was, like, in this position. No, he would not. And if he did, it would take a long-ass time before he gets to that point. Bode doesn't care about Kata because, believe it or not, the whole thing was doing, like, actively destroying the ground around him, endangering Kata not once, not twice, but 3 fucking times. 3 fucking times. To the point that Marin cared more about her. I genuinely just find it funny. Like, it's like thinking like, oh. Like, he's just a struggling father. You have to see from his perspective. No. No. I'm getting sick of that. At some point, you need to understand that your perspective no longer matters. When you cross the line, it genuinely does not matter anymore. Die! Even if Anakin was trying his best to save Padme and all this fucking shit, he's still in the fucking wrong. Yes, the dark side made him worse, but it's still of his own actions, his own volition, everything. It is Anakin himself. Even if I see it from his perspective, he's still wrong. And just because I understand doesn't mean I have to like it. And I genuinely think that's something people don't know how to do a lot of times. Even the game talks about that. Marin legit said, I have seen beasts go out, like, do what they can to protect their young, but we are not beasts. See, what you're telling me is that fucking Bode is a beast. Those that defend Bode or try to, like, sympathize with shit, like, shit like that are basically saying that he's a beast. That's more or less what they're saying. And I'm just, personally, I don't care. That makes me like him even less. Because if you're doing something that anybody can do, literally anybody, why are you special? Why do you think you're special? Because you're not. Weird example, but it's like, oh, a woman is pregnant and she's going into motherhood and tries her best to raise a child. And people say it's a beautiful thing this, beautiful thing that. If everybody does it, is it special? What does Syndrome say in the fucking Incredibles movie? When everyone is super, no one will be? And funny enough, that's a great example of what I'm talking about too. Syndrome was wrong. You cannot make the fucking argument that he was right. You cannot say, well, from his perspective, he felt this, he felt that. Well, his feelings are wrong. You know what we call that when someone genuinely believes that they're in the right, even though they're clearly wrong? It's called being delusional. That's called being delusional. It's like we're just fucking... We got into a point in life where we're just like, oh, I understand this completely delusional person. They genuinely believe in the right. Like, how can I judge them and criticize them for saying, like what they believe is right? They're delusional. They are fucking delusional. They're just playing up with pretty words. You know who said similar? Atham Kenway. Just because you believe you're right doesn't mean you are right. I know I'm getting off topic, but my points are still... It doesn't matter what Bode believed. It doesn't matter what he felt. He's still wrong and had to be stopped. He's still wrong for a danger copped to such a degree that I genuinely started to despise him. And here's the worst part. He's a Jedi! Or was a Jedi. The fact that he's a Jedi ruins most of his argument.
Need some help, buddy.
You know damn well that Kata, and speaking of Kata, I want to say this real quick. Anybody that believes that she's going to be super traumatized by Cal killing her father and shit like that, and probably going to go resentment, you do not understand characters in Star Wars.
That's not moving.
That's not moving. You do not understand them. She's a lot more strong-willed than you might think. Children in Star Wars more often than not a lot more strong-willed, especially those who are connected to the fucking Force. They are not children from Earth. They do not process trauma in a way that we do necessarily. And to act like they do is just delusional. And that's part of the reason why I don't like this whole argument that Bode is just a struggling father trying to do what he can for his daughter. Literally, the saying goes, the road to hell is paved with the best intentions. And as good as that argument and that pays that saying is and everything like that, that's still wrong. It's still majorly wrong. It's like people are afraid to just say you're wrong, and you're wrong for not liking the person. It's like you're objectively wrong and I don't like you. What's wrong with saying that? I don't like Bode. I can't stand him. I think he's a terrible father, pretending to be a good father, or trying to be a good father, and people are just buying into it because it reminds them of real life shit. And that's my main issue. It's shallow as hell to reference real life all the time. And that's something I want to bring up too. Is it truly genuine? And this is just my opinion, truth be told. But for everyone that were complaining about the prequel politics because apparently being reminiscent of politics in our real world, are they though? Are they actually reminiscent of how politics in a real world, in our world, I should say, or do they make sense for the lore itself? Do they actually make sense for the lore itself? In the context of the story, in the context of the lore, in the context of the character. That's what I focus on. That's why the prequels never bothered me. In the context of Phantom Menace, Attack of the Clones, Revenge of the Sith, the Clone Wars shows, both the miniseries and the Clone Wars TV show, in the context of everything within the story, they make sense to me. Because it's not our world. Apply that to Bode. You think that being a father that's trying to do the best for his daughter and whatnot is going to immediately work? Like, it just, okay. That works maybe in real life, but here's the problem. This is a whole ass fucking galaxy. A whole ass galaxy. A galaxy that has mostly the Empire ruling it. Why would you portray Cal to escape to a planet that you know nothing about? And if you do know something, you barely know anything about it. So knowing that, what plan did you have? What plan did you have? He didn't have a plan. In that moment where he's just like, "Are you going to protect my little girl, Cal?" I think he was trying to guilt trip Cal. That seemed like guilt tripping. Made more apparent when he actively tried to kill Cal, thrashed Kata through the fucking room. What if she hit her head? What if she hit her head and got a fucking concussion? Granted, she's protected by the Force more often than not, so she's not going to get a concussion like how we would. But still, what if she died even? That's happened before. You just killed your own fucking loved ones trying to protect them, quote unquote. Again, I know the dark side makes you irrational, but let's just be real here. This is of his own volition. It has to be. The dark side just amplifies what's already fucking there. And then he tried to kill Marin. What if he succeeded? What if he succeeded in killing Cal, killing Marin, and Kata's alive? You really think that Kata's going to appreciate him at all? Her father? She both apologized for his actions to Cal and Marin, and actively tried to, I don't know, get him to stop. Because she knows what he's doing is wrong. It's like people thinking, she's a little girl, she can't possibly understand. She's so young and sweet. Children, a lot more often than not, both in real life and in verses like Star Wars, are a lot more strong and mature than people give them credit for. She's going to be fine. Even if she does struggle, it's not that fucking deep. If it is that deep, it's going to be deep in the context of the story that's in there. I just think that people try to use real world shit, and I think a lot of that is just shallow empathy and shallow sympathy, as well as shallow attempts to humanize him. It's a whole ass galaxy. If you were moving to maybe another city or something, or another country on a singular planet, if this wasn't a whole ass galaxy, maybe I'll give it some grace. But this is a whole ass galaxy with all kinds of different species, with crazy technology, the Force. And the fact that he's a former Jedi, and the Force is an entity that can act of its own will. And if the Force wanted to, it could send someone to find Bode. Jenny makes me so angry. And I feel like I'm wrong for not liking him. Because how dare I? How dare I not like a father struggling to protect his art? Because it's Star Wars. I get it. Family, war, drama, betrayal. The Jedi, the Sith, the Mandalorians, different kinds of species all over. Space battles, shit like that. That's so much of Star Wars, but you cannot just boil it down to he's a struggling father and he didn't like what Cal said. Like, what if the fucking Empire fights Santa Lord? Here's my thing. How long do you think until that actually happens? Furthermore, it's Luke and them that try to stop the Jedi, not the Jedi, the Empire. I get what they're trying to do. Bode is like the extreme of what Cal will become. And that is more reason why I think he is not fallen as a Jedi. But damn, Bode just makes me angry. They're trying to do that, like, struggling dad shit that I've seen 1,000 times in Star Wars. And in the context of the story of Star Wars, he makes me mad because he lacks the clairvoyance to see where his consequences will fucking lead him. And that's why I can't compare him to Anakin Skywalker. He had so much shit happen to him way long before he even fucking strangled Padme. And even then, he just simply choked her with the Force. And guess what? She still had more faith in him. It's like people don't. Maybe I'm just too immersed in the Star Wars to see Bode as this really complex and sympathetic character, as well as other characters and shit like that. But it's just I just cannot see him as a struggling father type archetype, and that's what he feels like a caricature of that. That's what he feels like to me. That's what he comes off as, and I just. Do I say he's a bad character? No. I'll say that. I'll correct myself and say I don't think he was a bad character. The fact that I despise him that much is evident that. Let me put it like this. Star Wars has had a major effect on me for pretty much all of my life. Star Wars has such an influence that my way of thinking, for the most part, is because of it. A lot of my poems have a lot of, like, I write poems, and I might post them on my YouTube channel, but a lot of my poems and shit like that are inspired by Star Wars and things of that nature. I write stories, too. I write characters I created, or write characters that actually existed, and I make my own interpretation of them. Both subjectively and objectively, that's what I go by. And subjectively, I don't think Bode is anything that great because, truth be told, you can't use real life because that's too easy. I think that's too easy. I think what's harder is to accept him as the monster he actually is. And when he was given a fiery barrier later, it was to honor the man he was and could have been. So maybe I just understand things in a much more crazy level. I don't know. I just know is I just can't see certain characters in that light, and using real life as an example just doesn't help personally. Like a good example of what I'm talking about, and I know it's off topic, but the X-Men and mutants and things like that with against humanity. Apparently humanity has this whole thing against mutants because of the next evolution. They're going to replace humanity. So out of fear and anger and suffering, yes, I reference Yoda because why not? Why not? They tortured and killed a lot of mutants like that. You can make a sympathetic case for a lot of mutants, sure, but you have a lot of evil mutants that don't exactly help the case. I'm just talking about the in context thing about Marvel stories, about what I remember regarding them anyway, and what I understand. I didn't make any references to Malcolm X and all this fucking shit. I'd rather not make that comparison. I just rather not. I think it takes away the immersion. How I feel about sympathetic villains a lot of times. Or villains with a point, like Thanos, but I don't think he had a point or anything like that. It's just there's too many people out there in real life apparently that had this overpopulation issue that Thanos was talking about, and they were still wrong. In the context of the story of Infinity War and whatnot, I was surprised by the lack of people calling him out and arguing against his point, and that it's so funny knowing the fact that the What If Marvel series had fucking T'Challa, who's Star-Lord in that reality, make the same argument that many people would have made. and he stopped. Why didn't Tony do that? Why didn't excuse me, Doctor Strange do that? It's like stories just sacrifice themselves, or they sacrifice character traits and shit like that to appease this supposedly more charismatic opposition. And back to Star Wars, I don't believe that Palpatine was preparing the galaxy for the Yuuzhan Vong War. I don't think he was. And if he was, I don't think he did for any like altruistic reasons. He just did to make sure he's the absolute one in power. Just because he does some good thing doesn't mean he's not evil. He is pure evil. He may have a tragic past in like the later canon stories and shit like that, but Palpatine in my mind is still evil. He is a black hole in the Force, as Count Dooku called him. The same entity that simply rests a hand on Leia's shoulder when they met during one of the comics. And she was like so terrified of his dark power that she was collapsing, about to have a fucking seizure. That's all you need. Darth Vader works, but even knowing that, he still killed children and handicapped people. If you read the comic, Darth Vader and the Cry of Shadows, you know what I'm talking about. But I don't know. I just think when you cross that line, it's hard to sympathize or understand or whatever the fuck. Because sometimes people just go way too far with the extremes like that. It's just hard to get with them. I know I say that, and I enjoy Doctor Doom, but Doctor Doom is still conflicting. He does some insane shit, and yet he's still right, and that disturbs me. He's more terrifying than Bison, who's also a dictator, and he's openly evil, but yet his actions are tame in comparison to Doctor Doom. It's like people that genuinely believe they're doing the right thing, what limit what they won't, what they break. And that just haunts me, like, fucking hell. Zero makes for like more dramatic stories, but I feel like when you take out the emotional aspect, and look at things as they are, there truly are monsters. And that's the best way I can describe it. Yeah.